I realized something the day my opinion was received kindly. And then quietly ignored. Not argued with. Not challenged. Just acknowledged the way one nods at a child who has spoken out of turn. It wasn't said out loud. No one announced a change. But something had shifted. Decisions were being made near me. Not with me. At first, it looked like care. A suggestion here. A reassurance there. You don't need to worry about that anymore. We'll take care of it. They meant well. I know they did. And that's what made it so difficult to name. Because how do you protest kindness without sounding ungrateful? It began with small things. What I should eat. When I should rest. Which route was better for me. Conversations ended with conclusions. Before I'd finished forming my thought, someone else would answer questions that had been asked of me. Not maliciously. Almost lovingly. I noticed my voice becoming optional. Still allowed. But no longer required. There's a moment when you realize your independence hasn't been taken. It's been returned. With conditions. I was thanked for my input. And then the plan moved forward. As if I had agreed. Sometimes I hadn't. Sometimes I hadn't even been asked. What surprised me most was the shame. Not anger. Not outrage. Shame. The quiet embarrassment of realizing you are being handled carefully. Like something fragile. Like something that might break. If allowed to decide too much. I raised children. Paid bills. Solved problems with no manual. I made decisions that shaped other lives. And now, I'm asked whether I remembered my jacket. I know this sounds ungrateful. And that's the conflict that lives inside me. Because I am grateful. Grateful to be loved. Grateful that someone worries. Grateful that I am not abandoned. I understand the fear behind their actions. The desire to protect. To prevent regret. But protection, when uninvited, can feel a lot like erasure. There's a strange humiliation in being spoken to gently. When you haven't spoken foolishly. In having your judgment questioned. Without evidence of failure. I catch myself hesitating now. Pausing before I speak. Rewriting my sentences internally. To sound less confused. As if clarity must be proven. That may be the hardest part. Not losing control. But learning to doubt yourself. Because others already have. Sometimes I comply. I nod. I step back. I let the decision happen without resistance. Because pushing back feels exhausting. And because I don't want to be difficult. There's a word that enters the room. When older people speak up. Stubborn. It's rarely said aloud. But it's there. Waiting. I don't feel stubborn. I feel present. I feel aware. I feel capable. But capability, it seems, has an expiration date in other people's minds. I wonder when that date was set. Was it the first time I forgot a name? The first time I asked for help? The first gray hair that made my authority negotiable? No one sat me down and said, "We're taking over now." Instead, they wrapped it in love, which makes it almost impossible to refuse. Because refusing sounds like rejection. And I don't want to reject the people who are trying to keep me safe. So I live in between. Between gratitude and resentment. Between appreciation and grief. Between knowing they care and feeling myself disappear in the process. There is a loneliness in being overprotected. A loneliness that doesn't come from neglect, but from being underestimated. I don't want full control back. I'm not asking for that. I know my limits better than anyone. What I want is participation. To be consulted before decisions are finalized. To be trusted until proven otherwise. To be treated like an adult who has lived a long, thinking life. Dignity, I've learned, is not independence alone. It's inclusion. It's being allowed to choose, even if the choice is imperfect. Because choice affirms existence. Sometimes I wonder if this is what childhood felt like. Being loved intensely. Protected constantly. But rarely asked what you wanted. Except this time. I remember what it was like to decide. And that memory makes all the difference. I don't blame my children. They are navigating fear. Fear of loss. Fear of guilt. Fear of being the one who didn't intervene soon enough. I see their worry, and I hold it carefully. But I also hold something else. A quiet mourning for the self that used to be trusted without question. I still think. Still weigh options. Still understand consequences. Those abilities didn't vanish just because my hands shake a little more. What vanishes first, I've noticed, is permission. Permission to decide. Permission to disagree. Permission to be wrong on your own terms. And when permission is gone, what remains? That's the question I sit with. Not angrily. Not bitterly. Just honestly. At what point does care become control? And how do we preserve dignity in old age without mistaking silence for consent? I don't have an answer. I'm still thinking. And I would like to be asked.